So, but Chardonnay again expresses it really well, and so it's a lot of fun for winemakers to use barrels for that in Chardonnay. And in fact, most Chardonnay is, or at least began, being aged in barrels versus a number of white wines that tend to be in stainless steel. Because they really like the fact that it would absorb it and take it and not be overpowered by the oak. So now we're stepping over the Andes into Chile. Take your time. No rush. I'll get started on the details and you enjoy the rest of your wine. This is from Santa Rita. It's their Medalla Real Chardonnay. And this Chardonnay is from the Casablanca region. Now, Casablanca is further north in Chile, but it being further north, you would think there was a lot more sun, a lot more heat, but it's on the coast. So you get the coastal influence, you get the breezes, you get all of the maritime weather that changes the look. It's kind of like if you go up into California's Central Valley. If you go east, it's really, really hot. You can grow a lot of great red grapes out there, but if you threw a Pinot or Chardonnay, they would cook. Versus if you come all the way to the coast where we get the wind influence off the ocean, you can grow Chardonnay and Pinot Noir there. It's the same down in Chile. You get that influence, so it's a little bit cooler. The grapes can grow and not overcook. And it's actually the premier growing region in Chile for Chardonnay, and for a number of other white wines as well. But for Chardonnay specifically out of Chile, you are looking at probably growing in the Casablanca region. And easy one to remember because of the movie that we love.
Yes.
So this one was aged in oak, and this one they did a process called batonnage, where the yeast that create the alcohol, that eat the sugars in the grape must and turn it into alcohol, they die and they lay at the bottom of the barrel when they're aging it. Now they take, what they like to do to make it a little bit fuller and a little bit richer is they take a big baton, essentially, that's why it's called batonnage, and they stir it. Every week they stir it twice, and they mix those dead yeast into the alcohol substance, or alcohol liquid, and it creates a richer, fuller bodied wine, and they do that over and over, and it's called aging sur lit, but it's also called batonnage. Sur lit means that they keep the dead yeast in the barrel, and batonnage means they stir them up. So with that, you're going to get a much richer, more full-bodied Chardonnay, and with the oak, you're going to get those toast notes and that kind of more buttery flavor. So from Chile over the Andes, let's see what we think of this one. See, it's richer, it's definitely more full-bodied, and this one I get a lot more of that butter. I know in this one they did do a malolactic fermentation, and that essentially all malolactic fermentation is they turn malic acid into lactic acid, which is a little bit softer. Malic acid is more your tart, your citrus, your lemon zest. That's what we kind of got in the first one, the more citrus, the more tart. Versus this, where they did the malolactic, and it's a little bit more creamy, it's a little buttery, it's more full-bodied and voluptuous, essentially. This one, I would say, of all the wines so far, is closest to what we perceive as Chardonnay to be in California. People in California like that buttery, they like that full-bodied. And that, again, the full-bodied comes from the batonnage. It's interesting that they figured out that you let the yeast die and you keep them in the barrel and you stir them up, and all of a sudden you change the entire way that this tastes in your mouth.
Yeah.
So gives it a much more full-bodied, and I just love the flavor in this. I mean, honey, butter, toast, I mean, it's really, really delicious. Anything pop out to you girls?
It doesn't seem overpowering either. Like it's got the flavors, but it's not.
It's balanced.
They mix well. That's
Yeah.
so they mix very well together.
Exactly, and that's the sign of a decent winemaker, is it's very well balanced. You don't get too much of one thing. You get a nice combination of all of it.
Do a lot of wineries use that method, or
The
is it just-
batonnage?
Yeah.
It's really up to the winemaker. A lot of them do. And the interesting thing about it is that it was created in France for most wines like Chardonnay, and it has been spread worldwide, but it's really up to the winemaker. They play around with all kinds of different things in wine, especially in the New World. In California and Australia, they try all kinds of different things, but this is definitely a process that is used worldwide and is used mostly for Chardonnay. Going back to the malolactic, an interesting fact about malolactic is you hear it a lot of times in relation to Chardonnay, but it's a natural process in wine and can happen without the winemaker forcing it to happen, and it happens more in red wine than actually in white wine. You just hear it more in Chardonnay because of the change in flavor that it actually gives to the Chardonnay grapes. And you see, like in the sort of towards the end of the flavor, a little bit of that vanilla.
Yeah.
That I love that sign. Good sign of good wine. All right, so you ladies, take your time, enjoy that. I'll introduce the last one. And the last one is Casa La Postal from Chile. It's their Cuvée Alexander Chardonnay. And Casa La Postal, in 2005, their Clos Apalta cab was rated the #1 wine in the world by Wine Spectator. Fantastic winery with rave reviews out of Chile. And in fact, this Chardonnay has been rated between 89 and 92 points for the last decade. It's always highly rated. And this is actually one of my favorites coming from South America. They really just nail it. And it is from the same region as our Santa Rita was, Casablanca. But this one is a single vineyard production. This one is actually from the Atalayas vineyard in Casablanca, so that means that all the grapes used in the production of this bottle of wine came from one vineyard, one parcel of land, and they really liked the way that that developed that year, so they picked all of those grapes and made one wine with those specific grapes. So very, very delicious, and usually when they do a single vineyard production, it's because they really liked the way that those grapes ripened that year. It came out perfectly and they were really happy and wanted to really show off what that vineyard did that year. Excuse me.
Are you going to chug it before?
Chug, put it back. Take your time, like I said.
I have to yes. I'm trying to keep up.
No, don't. I'm pouring you girls heavier than me too, so you just enjoy. See?
Yeah, great.
Oh,
We appreciate it.
I know the fastest way to a woman's heart. That's all I have to say. Is through a lot of
You made a
wine.
lot of wine. You made it there. With the first pour, you made it.
All right. So Casa La Postal Cuvée Alexander Chardonnay. And this one again, malolactic fermentation. So you're going to get the creamy, buttery, aged in oak. So you're going to get the toasty, yeasty. And it did not say that they used batonnage, but I do know it was aged sur lie. So I'm guessing at some point they used a slight batonnage. So enjoy. Yeah, a little sweeter. And do you notice how there's a lot of flavor going on, but it's all really subtle? So this is an extremely well-balanced, well-made Chardonnay. You get all of the flavors going on from the Santa Rita, but going back on that, it's delicate. It's not in your face. And that, again, is kind of like I was saying from the French oak. You get delicate intricacies in the wine flavor profile, but it's not in your face about it. It's just really elegant, really nice, and wonderful to taste. And the interesting thing with this one is you can taste components that we had in all three of these. You can kind of taste the apple from the first one. You can kind of taste the butter from this one, and you can taste the toast from this one. And it's kind of all in there, and it's all really, really well crafted. And on that nose, don't you get like a nice honey? It's really just nice, and that goes back to your honeysuckle flower.
This is really nice.
Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah. Obviously, it's the favorite. This one.
Yeah, that's the favorite.
Delicious. All right, ladies. Well, I'll wrap it up and say thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us, and cheers.
Cheers.